If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schafer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump, for the first 48 minutes, we have our introductory conversation. We start out by talking about opiate addiction and withdrawals. Adam actually shares a very personal story in that part of this episode. Then we ask Doug how life insurance actually works. Now, Health IQ is one of our sponsors. They do provide life insurance for people who are very fit, so you get good prices. And Doug explains how it works. Now, you go to healthiq.com/mindpump. You can get a free quote. Then we talk about the rat study and ketogenic diets. There's a study that came out that shows that ketogenic diets can cause diabetes. I debunk that myth in that part of this episode. Adam talks about electric shock chopsticks.
This is the shit.
Actually makes you taste foods differently.
I'm excited about this, man.
That's kind of weird. We talk about aging and gray hair. Is my salt and pepper beard good looking, or does it just make me look like crap, like Adam says?
Just let me get a hold of it.
Then Adam shares his Organifi shake recipe. This is a protein shake made with egg yolks. What's in that recipe, Adam?
I use the vanilla Organifi protein. I do 2 scoops of that. It's 1 medium banana, 3 large strawberries, 3 egg yolks, a cup of ice, and then 1 cup of almond milk. So I've shared, I think, that one, and I've also shared the banana and blueberry and spinach one. So those are the 2 that I've been making lately.
Sounds delicious. Organifi is one of our sponsors. If you go to Organifi.com/mindpump and use the code MINDPUMP, you will get a 20% discount. Then we talk about dietary cholesterol and its benefits. Believe it or not, dietary cholesterol can contribute to muscle gain and maybe even fat loss.
Say what?
And then we talk about rain and glyphosates. And then we get into the questions. The first question was, what is our opinion on power napping? This is when you can take a 20 to 30-minute nap in the middle of the day. Is it beneficial? Is it good for health?
I'm going to nap the shit out of it.
And the problem is a lot of people can't take a nap. We recommend Brain FM. It's these music that you listen to that actually puts your brain into a state where you take a nap.
Amazing.
We are sponsored by them, or we work with them, I should say.
It actually works.
If you go to brain.fm/mindpump, you'll get 20% off. The next question was, why are there some people that can eat a ton of junk food and crap and never work out and look awesome? What the hell's going on, and why is this so unfair? And the next question was, what are our views on training every body part except for 1 or 2, because maybe that part's already overdeveloped? This is a person that doesn't want to work her chest, because every time she says she works her chest, she doesn't like the way her boobs look. Should she avoid training her chest?
Save them boobies.
And the final question, are trainers just touchy-feely by nature, or are some of them just creeps? We share some good, fun stories in that part of this episode. I also want to mention that MAPS Performance is 50% off. Now, MAPS Performance is our MAPS program that focuses on full spectrum athletic performance, giving you an athletic looking body, lean, mobile, and muscular. It's half off if you use the code GREEN50. That's GREN and the number 50 all together. And that's at mindpumpmedia.com. We also have bundles that are on that site. Bundles where we take multiple MAPS programs, put them together for particular goals, and we discount them. All of those bundles and the 50% off MAPS Performance with the code GREEN50 is available at mindpumpmedia.com.
T-shirt time!
And it's T-shirt time.
Oh, yeah.
Boom.
I don't know what's going on. Only 6 reviews this last week.
Whoa.
That's Adam's fault.
You slackers.
That's Adam's fault.
So 2 shirts
I'm
are
going to
going
shame
out.
you.
We've got 2 winners here, Krista 875311 and Pika 1218. Both of you are winners. Send the name I just read to iTunes at mindpumpmedia.com and send your shirt size, your shipping address, and we'll get that right out to you.
Leave a review. Just go there, leave a review. If it's 5-star and we like it, your chances of winning a T-shirt are obviously really, really high.
What? What?
Is your singing voice getting better?
It is.
Let me hear it.
What?
What's that from? Is that the what
Hey,
in the butt? What in the butt?
You know, who was that? Eddie Murphy?
No, that was actually a viral video. This guy made.
Oh, I know. You're thinking of the Raw thing.
Oh,
the
yeah,
poop,
that's
the poop
right.
song.
No, Eddie Murphy
he
does
actually
this
had
one.
a CD. Eddie Murphy has a whole album.
He does
where
a thing about something in your butt. It's a clock in your butt. motherfucking clock in your butt. You ever watch that?
Oh, no. I know he does a thing in Raw or Delirious. I don't remember which one of the stand-ups he does where he does like the poop song or whatever.
Oh,
What
it's
a
party
classic.
all the time, party all the time.
That was
that song?
actually a hit
Yeah.
sung by Eddie Murphy.
Well, yeah, it's because, he brought in, what's his name? Super Freak, Rick James.
Oh yeah.
He brought Rick James in to produce it, and of course it's going to be a hit.
People think that musicians today are fucking crazy party maniacs.
Yeah.
No, they would die if they were competing with the guys of the 70s.
Not
and 80s.
anymore, man.
Oh, bro, Rick James.
Yeah.
Oh my! Have you ever heard stories of that guy?
I just
or
feel like-
Motley Crue.
Just watch
or-
Chappelle Show, dude, and you see some of the, the shenanigans with the couch. And
I just feel like they're on different drugs now. It's different.
Yeah.
It's like they party. I mean, they're doing a lot of drugs. I think still today. It's just they're doing different drugs.
But I think back then it was a competition to see who could do the most drugs.
they're not as out of hand as they used
Well,
to be.
you know,
it's
it's
kind of depressing.
that same competition that was around like coke and heroin and speed and things like that is now around things like scissor, so and codeine and things like that. So that's what you hear.
prescription drugs.
Is that why the rap got really slow? You know what I mean?
Probably.
that why they started mumbling?
So I mean, some of these guys are have these syrup machines in their house, dude. A straight just
What is it? It's coffee. It's coffee. It's cough medicine, right?
yeah, but it's codeine inside of it though. So
I've
it's
never
like,
taken
it's like
codeine.
liquid. It's like liquid Vicodin. Think of that.
Is that what it feels
Yeah.
like?
So you just go numb.
Promethazine. So it's liquid.
Adam's an expert.
Oh, I've had it. It's
the
fucking
chemical
It's
structure.
fucking awesome.
Sounds
It's
tasty.
like, yeah. So you take here. This is so bad. I'm going to tell people.
know.
To do this. Just keep it.
Is it
real.
an opiate?
Just keep it. Yeah, it's an opiate.
Oh, so there you go, kids. Opiates, worst drugs to fuck with. I just got to give them that.
100%. No, the most addictive for sure. And I've definitely shared. I shared my addiction on the show before, and just how miserable that was coming off of that. That was one of the worst things ever in my life.
Yeah.
But
Good on you, man.
We used
be able to do
to
that.
take the promethazine, which is the purple drink, right, or the cough syrup, and you pour it in with Sprite, so ice, Sprite, and then a Jolly Rancher, and then you would just drink it. So that's what. And Lil Wayne was known for this, walking around with a red cup all the time, and that was what was poured inside the
How
cup.
can you be social like that? I feel like you'd just be like, ugh.
Well, it affects it affects people differently. Like
It's true because opiates for me, I feel like I want to throw up or have nightmares.
Katrina and I used to talk about this all the time because it's in my gene for my family. Like I have like 7 family members that are prescribed prescription drugs like this, and a handful of them have been addicted and been in rehab over it. But then in my family, no one's a drinker. Like nobody, and I don't drink. I hate alcohol. Does not sit well with me. But then you look at like Katrina's family, and like everybody drinks, and she can get blasted, bro. Like drink 15 drinks, and just all she'll do is pass out.
She feels okay.
Yeah, she'll pass out, and then she'll wake up the next day and be okay. And I'm just like, what?
I'm ready to run.
Like I have that many drinks, I'm throwing my brains out, and I'm hungover for 2 days.
So check this out, right? Ready for this? Because we're in the middle of an opiate epidemic, or also in the middle of a methamphetamine epidemic, both of which are fueled by prescription.
Yeah.
like
yeah, these are
legal
the
drugs.
2 big
Yeah, of
drugs
course.
now.
Yeah, but so check this out.
all in Florida.
Of all of the drug-related deaths in America in 2016, 2/3 of them were from opiates.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
2/3 of them.
Wow.
So we're talking like 40,000 people a year, or something insane like that. It's crazy. Now check this out. The overdose drug death rate increased overall from 2016 by 21%. Opiate-related overdose deaths increased by 10%. Heroin by 19%. Cocaine by 52%. Wow, look at that.
Whoa.
And the psychostimulated.
There blows your cocaine theory out there.
Well, you know what
goes,
though? The 52%
Making
of
a resurgence.
52% of a small percentage is not that much. 10% of a big number, because opiate-related deaths have been high now for a while.
Right.
And there's states that are literally engulfed in this opiate epidemic. It's one of the nastiest ones that I've researched in terms of withdrawal going off. Like alcohol is terrible to go off, and then opiates apparently is like one of the worst ones to go off.
It's like nothing. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
it looks like pure
tried.
hell.
I've tried damn near almost. I mean, there's a handful of drugs I haven't fucked with. I've never fucked with like heroin or anything crazy like that. But I've
Never took flakka.
What is fuck?
You guys don't know what that is?
Waka Flocka.
Have you heard of this shit?
No.
Oh, don't look
Is
it
that
up
the
on.
one where you get like turned into a zombie?
Yeah, don't look it up on
bath
YouTube.
salts?
It's
Don't
kinda
look it
like
up on
bath salt,
YouTube.
right?
If you look it up on YouTube, you will have nightmares.
Is it the bath salt thing?
I promise you'll have nightmares. Bro, these people look scary.
It's like the one where the guy jumps out the windshield.
Yeah, that's the bath salt
Bro,
thing.
there was a security camera on this parking lot, and this woman, she's like, this man came out of nowhere and ran through my back window and tried to kill me, and so they like didn't believe her. So then you see the video of it, and she's literally getting in her minivan trying to leave, and a naked dude from across the parking lot runs full speed and dives in her back window. She takes off and he falls out. Yeah. Then there's another one where there's this man who's making these weird animal noises, and he's crawling around and he's naked and he's like. Then there was a story of a dude who was eating another person's face and body.
Yeah.
It's called Flocka.
That was all the Florida stuff. That was the bath salts thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember when that was going on.
But yeah, the opiate withdrawal is supposed to be one of the worst.
There's nothing that I've ever experienced like that. I mean, even going through what I just went through with the testosterone thing, like definitely that was a rough time for me. Definitely felt like this mild depression, lost motivation, but at least I could sleep. Like you get addicted to opiates and your skin crawls, bro. Like you trying to sleep at night, like you're hot, cold, sweating your ass off.
Does it feel like you have the flu all the time?
Yes. It feels like you have the flu, you have the shakes, and you can't sleep.
And how long does that last?
Dude, it could last it could last weeks, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, weeks.
That's
I didn't even I remember I think I don't know if I've shared how many I got. So the most I ever got up to was 9 in a day.
Vicodin or
the double strength Norcos.
Is that a lot compared to how much when people use it and abuse it? Is that considered a lot?
No, not at all.
Really?
Oh, dude, I'll tell a story about someone close to me, but I won't say who it is because I don't think he would appreciate me ever sharing the story and who he is. But and we've all shared like our own stories of, man, I knew it was a problem when this, because of course, like anything else, it starts off as it started off for me as a thing where, someone introduced it to me when I was in my early 20s because I wasn't a drinker, but I was 20 something years old and we'd go out every Friday night. And that was like, I was a trainer, I was into health and fitness, but I wasn't into really drinking, but I wanted to go out with everybody, have a good time. So I remember a buddy of mine goes like, dude, you ever take a Vicodin? I'm like, Vicodin? No, that's gonna make me sleepy. And he's like, no. Take one and have like one beer. And I'm like, really? It just says you're not supposed to drink alcohol with it and stuff like that. He's like, just try it.
It's like the Johnny Cash formula.
So I did, and I was like, it gave me this feeling of being drunk without having to drink a bunch of beers. And so then it became this.
Did you feel like social? And
yeah, yeah. So then it became this thing that, okay, well, on the occasional weekend when I'd go out, it was something that my buddy always had them, and so he'd throw me one. It was like, oh, no big deal. And so that's how it was for me for much of my early mid-20s. I wasn't somebody who needed it or took it a lot or anything like that at all. But what had happened, because I recreationally used it like that, and then when I got injured and I had to take it for my knee,
and now you've got a big supply of it.
Yeah, and now I have a bunch of it. And then what I noticed was that, like, because I was in so much pain that it wasn't like really doing much work. And so then they prescribed me the double strength, and so then I get these double strength ones. And then I remember, like, trying to be conservative with it. I would take it, and then I'd wait till I'm in pain again. Then I'd take another one. And I remember telling my doctor, like, man, I'm still in a lot of pain. And she's like, well, how are you taking your meds? And I'm like, well, I try and wait till I don't take it until I have to. And she's like, oh, no, you need to stay ahead of the pain.
Terrible advice.
I know, right? So I go, oh, okay. So that was all I needed, was to give me the green light that have more, right? So then I went from having like 4 in a day, because it's every 4 hours. It's on the prescription bottles. You're supposed to take one of these. So then at that time, I'm taking about 4 of them in the day. Well, now because I get the green light from my doctor that go ahead and take them, stay ahead of the pain. Now I'm like, I'm taking one, and then an hour or two later, take another one. Mm-hmm. Before you know it, that's starting to ramp up to where I'm taking 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'm on 9. And I'm going through my prescriptions, and I go probably a couple months of doing this before, I'm starting to get healed from the ACL, MCL. And now I'm healed, and I don't know anything about this at this time. I'm still naive to, opiate addiction, or that's a lot or not a lot. It's being prescribed to me. I'm taking it.
It's my doctor gave it to me.
Right. I'm not even questioning it right now, right? And so then I feel good. I'm back to starting to train again. So I'm rehabbing now. The pain really isn't there, so I just stopped taking them. Just completely. I'm done taking them now. I don't need to take these anymore. After that next prescription was over, I didn't even refill it, and I was done. And the next day, I had like the most miserable like flu. And I remembered that I had like one left in my cabinet. And I'm like, and I didn't sleep that whole first night. And I was just like, fuck, just come down. Like I'm shitting myself, so you get diarrhea too. So I get like have diarrhea going on.
So you think you're sick?
Oh yeah, I'm almost certain that I have the flu. And so and at this point I feel so miserable that I just want to sleep. So I'm like, oh, you know what? That Vicodin will help me relax and sleep. So I go in my cupboard, I get the last one, I take it, I chew it up and I swallow it. And maybe 20 minutes later, all my symptoms go away. And not only they go away, all of a sudden I have energy and I feel good. And I went, what the fuck? And right away I go in my office and I start fucking like Googling like Vicodin addiction, this and that. And I just start reading like crazy, getting on forums. And I'm like, holy fuck, I'm addicted to something. I've never been addicted to anything in my life. Like I could feel the chemical addiction. And so luckily, again, I did my homework, and then so I go and I get another prescription, and then I tapered down. I went from 9 to 6 to 5 to 4 to 3, and I just kept slowly taking it off. But it was a process of probably almost 2 months of coming down before I could completely get off of it. But man, the feeling of
it's terrible.
Oh, it was the most terrible feeling I've ever felt in my life, and I could see how somebody gets trapped in that.
It pisses me off to no end because doctors, they're the people that we trust, that we're supposed to trust. We're supposed to do what they tell us and hear what they have to say, and if we have a question, they're the ones with the answers. And it makes me really fucking angry that it's our medical system that has 100% they are responsible for this fucking epidemic of opiates and methamphetamines that is starting to happen. And because if you're an adult and you go to the doctor and your doctor is like, no, this is fine, you're totally fine doing this. I have a friend that is quitting smoking, went to the doctor's like, hey, I'm trying to quit smoking. Oh, you know what? I got this, what did they put him on? Wellbutrin. Here, take this. This will help you quit smoking. That's a fucking, that's a mind-altering substance that is used for certain types of depression, that when you go off completely, you can have all kinds of weird side effects. And this person told me, oh, I'm on Wellbutrin. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you had depression or what's going on? Oh, no, to help me quit smoking. And so I'm like, oh, you know what it's going to be like to go off that. You got to be very careful. And I'm showing them, like, this is how you go off, and make sure you ask your doctor how to go off of it properly. And they were pissed off because the doctor never had talked to them about this. They never understood that the going off process is a process. And then you've quit smoking, which now, and the reason why they were angry is like, well, I'm quitting smoking, which sucks. After I'm done quitting smoking, I got to go and quit something else.
Just replacing it.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, it's crazy.
When I cut my I've cut my cannabis use down to, I was using it because I initially started using cannabis for my gut, and it really did help. And by the way, new studies have come out to show how cannabis actually helps the gut, and they think it's due to some people having what's called an endocannabinoid deficiency. I actually talked about this a long time ago. I was speculating that this may be the issue, and in fact, that's what they're finding. They found this in mice where some mice produce less of these endocannabinoids, and so they have more gut inflammation. That is a very important part of the process of regulating inflammation, because the gut is very interesting. It's full of bacteria, full of things from the outside world because you're eating things, and yet it doesn't get all inflamed and crazy because it's very intelligent and knows when to do that. But sometimes it goes off. Cannabinoids help. So that's when I started using cannabis regularly because it helped with my gut issues. But then my gut started getting better, and it took me a long time to really be honest with myself and say, okay, am I really using this on a nightly basis because of my gut issues, or is it because I like cannabis? So I went from using it every night to using it, once or twice a week. But the first 2 weeks I didn't use it at all. I'm just like, I'm going to see what happens, go cold turkey. And I went through withdrawal, nothing like opiate withdrawal, nothing like cigarette, nothing. But I was so mad that I had some withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah, there was a little dependency there.
It made me angry that I allowed myself to do that. And my withdrawal symptoms were literally just not sleeping quite as well. I had really vivid dreams, and I felt a little bit edgy, a little bit irritated for about 2 weeks. Not a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Irritability is crazy. You asked me if that was like normal for somebody, and I'm on the lower end. Like in fact,
didn't you tell me someone was taking like 30, 40,
30
50?
to 50.
Oh my God.
30 to 50, or all my other friends and family that I know that have been addicted to it were up to 30 to 50. I was going to tell you the story about somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, and we all, because we'd all shared well, how did you know when you were addicted to them? Because it, tends to creep up on everybody before they realize that they are, right? Everyone's in denial forever. And I remember him telling me, he's like, He's like, dude, Adam, I remember when it really dawned on me. And he goes, one time, he goes, I had thrown 30 of them in my mouth, and you chew them up so it hits your bloodstream faster, right? So he chews them all up, and he swallows them. And he says when he did that, it was so much at one time that his stomach rejected it, and he threw it all up. And he says without any hesitation, he went down and he scooped it up off the ground and ate it back again.
Oh man.
Oh.
And he goes, because there was no hesitation, because right away you're thinking as somebody who
Like, oh shit, I'm not gonna lose the pills.
That's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in pills that you just threw up. There's no way you're wasting all that and letting it go on the ground. And so he picks it back up and puts it back in his mouth. And I thought, like, damn, that's when you know you're like,
that's a low point.
So, but I mean, and what ends up happening is guys get to 30 to 50, and then you end up, you play this justification game where you go, well, fuck, I'm taking 30 to 50. This is bad for my liver. This is too much. So what I should do is get on something like Oxycontin, which is fucking 4 times as strong, but I'll take a quarter of the pills.
Yeah, because a lot of these people progress to heroin.
Well,
right? It's intravenous.
This is how this happens. So then you go from there and you go to Oxycontins, and you start taking 2 to 4 of those every day, which fucking puts you in a coma. And then your body adapts to that. And then you're taking 10 of those. And then you go like, okay, I'm taking 10 pills that the black market sells for $20 to $50 a pill, depending on the strength level you have. Holy shit, like this is getting expensive and it's bad for my liver. Holy fuck, I never thought I would stick a needle in myself, but it actually is healthier for me now to stick a needle in myself.
You start to rationalize it.
Yes, you start to rationalize it. You start to go, and it's cheaper. You go, it's cheaper and it's better for me just to do that. Like, fuck, I guess I will, and that's how, because I guarantee you 90% of the people that inject heroin, and I've talked to guys that have got to this point, because I go like, man, I just can never imagine doing that, sticking a needle in yourself,
injecting some dirty shit into your blood.
to do that, but they're like, it never starts like that. You don't go like from never doing any drug to like, what, let's fucking do some heroin tonight. Mm-hmm. Like, no, it starts off with the opiate addiction. And then that gets so out of control that you keep ramping that up. And before long, you're spending so much money and you're taking so many pills that you start, like you said, rationalize it that, well, shit, it's almost healthier for me to fucking shoot it into my body.
Well, the body adapts, and it's crazy because, I like the methamphetamine type ones, right? Like Ritalin and Adderall and all that stuff. If I've done that before, I've taken a 5 or 10 milligram pill of Ritalin. 10 milligrams for me, and I'm on fire. And I've used it maybe a grand total of 4 times in my entire life, just from, whatever. And what's funny is I'm like, wow, that's really strong. So then I go do my research, and you read that's a children's prescription amount. Like, and parents are giving their kids
more than half of a human.
Parents are giving the kids are working up. Some of these kids are working up at 40 milligrams, Adderall at higher doses. And I'm like, what the fuck? They're giving kids more than what I did, and I felt like I was. But it makes sense if I took 10 milligrams of Ritalin every day within a couple weeks, right? I would need 20,
and that's exactly how it happens. Yeah. It's not like it's some parent is like, hey, here's fucking 40 milligrams right away. It's you start with a low dose,
you start with 2, 5, and then you work your way up,
and then eventually, and on that side of the drug, that's where guys end up going over to crystal meth and speed, things like that, because eventually you end up taking so many of those pills that you start to rationalize that. I may as well smoke the crack, because if I want that same feeling, it's cheaper and it's less dangerous on my liver because I'm not taking 40 pills.
Well, so I have a friend who is a doctor, and he was on Adderall through high school, and then college, and then medical school. And he was saying, medical school, that's what everybody's using or whatever. But then he got real honest with himself afterwards, and he's like, okay, I need to take myself off. And he was so terrified that the real him wouldn't be good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so this is the problem with the methamphetamines, is that these kids are on them at such young ages, that the dependence is not just physical. Right. It's also a very strong emotional,
It's all intertwined with their performance.
I mean, think about that. It'd be like being an athlete. It's like you're a high school athlete that's on steroids. Then you go to college, you're on steroids. Then you go to the pros, and you're on steroids. And then they're like, we're going to drug test everybody all the time. And you're worried, like, who am I without?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, who am I going to be without the steroids?
Right.
So he was really afraid, and it took him a year to get off of them and to kind of normalize his body and whatever. And he's like, it was a very difficult. He had to take a shit ton of other types of stimulants to make up for the difference, and then get off of those. And It's a bit crazy, man.
Well, on this note of 2/3 of the nation dying from opiate addiction and stuff like that, I think it's a good time to mention our sponsor, Health IQ.
Yeah.
and
Well,
life insurance.
people- you know what?
If you're gonna be
It's a good
crazy and
segue.
take all this shit, man, you should fucking look out for your family.
Well, you know what? We got a lot of
reveal
we've
all
got a
that.
lot of messages from people who've now gotten life insurance and really happy with the rates. But a lot of people don't really know how life insurance really works. I'm getting a lot of questions from, and I know Doug is an expert in the field.
Yeah.
Maybe you can kind of explain.
Enlighten us, Doug.
Yeah, because I'm getting a lot of these 20-something, 30-something-year-old people who are like, okay, how does this work? And I can't answer the questions for them.
Well, I first want to say that it's not that expensive to get life insurance. So, for example, I just ran some numbers for Adam, who is 37. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah.
Okay. So for $1 million policy for a 20-year term policy, only around $500 a year.
A year.
A year.
that's
So it's super
that's
cheap.
not bad.
And $1
to
million
get it.
policy means if he dies,
Right. So this is
$1 million
20-year
goes to Sal.
Yeah, we'll
term
all cash in.
policy. So for 20 years. So say you bought it today, 20 years from now, if you were to die at any point during that time, your heirs would get $1 million.
Yeah.
So this is super dirt cheap if you consider it, what you pay for car insurance, what you pay for health insurance, that type of thing.
Hey, Doug, if does that get taxed? That's a question I've gotten
That's
to.
another thing. It does not get taxed.
So it's $1 million pure.
It's $1 million tax free.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's good.
Exactly.
I didn't know
That's
that.
$41 a month.
Yeah, super cheap. So where else can you leave $1 million for the people you love immediately? Say you were getting hit by a bus today,
And tax-free.
you would get immediately.
Now,
your
ex-
family would get that money.
Now, Doug, explain how that works for the insurance company. Is the whole idea of the term policy, and I thought I heard you say this, that they're betting that you live.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they would go
So
pay.
the reason it's so cheap is because most people will never collect. The insurance company's betting that you're going to live beyond the 20-year term. And that's why they check your health. And for example, Health IQ really focuses on how healthy you are.
Right.
And that's why you can get such low rates because they're betting
That you're going to live out.
that you're never going to collect.
So now, is it only a 20-year term, or can I do a 30 or a 40-year?
Typically, 30-year is the limit.
Okay.
I mean, you can go down to 10-year term, 15-year, 20, 30. Those are the typical terms. Obviously, the longer the term, the more expensive it will be.
Of course.
So if you're looking at a 30-year term, obviously you're going to be much older at that time. By the time you could possibly collect, your likelihood of collecting at that time is up because you are older.
Yeah.
And so you're probably looking at a doubling of your rates, for the 30-year over the 20-year.
Yeah.
Another
Which still is
factor-
not bad. I mean,
No, it's $80 a month.
yeah.
No, it's not bad at all. Another factor is, of course, your age when you start this thing. So you're 37. However, if you started at 27, your rates would have been substantially less because after 20 years, if it's a 20-year term policy, if you're 27 years old, then you're 47 by the time that term ends.
Right.
But in your case, if you're 37, you'll be
57.
57. So
I mean, the whole point is an
to live.
emergency.
Yeah, it's to
Well,
live.
no, an emergency. Obviously, your family would
The
rather.
whole point is to live. Try and outlive your
You want
term.
them to win.
Yeah.
you do
but
want
at the
them
end of
to
the
win.
day,
That's
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
a fact.
yeah,
At the end of the day,
you're
you want
worth
your
more-
family to
Yeah.
make some money off your death.
Yeah, you're
You know
worth
what I mean?
more than $1 million to
Yeah.
the people who care about you. Obviously, you're worth more like $1,050,000 or something like that. But just kidding. But no, I mean that's literally because I have a policy and my money, the money that if I died goes to my kids. Because the way I think about it, I'm their caretaker, and God forbid something happened to me in the next 20 years. I mean, that may put them in a bad situation, right? So that's the whole point of it. Is you want it because how many? This is an interesting statistic. I don't know if you guys have ever looked this up. People who when you have families, when the breadwinner dies, what happens to their families is terrible in terms of poverty and some of the issues that tend to happen because they lose that person who's able to take care of them. So it's a very smart, important thing to do.
Yeah, and these numbers I ran here were through a company I've worked with in the past. I've compared this to Health IQ numbers, and I think my rates are a little high, comparatively speaking.
Oh, wow.
So I think you could even get it for less.
Good.
There you go.
Speaking of health, so there was this article that was making the rounds that I was getting tagged on, and people were sending it to me left and right. And the title of the articles will say something like, Ketogenic Risks. Low-carb, high-fat diets may make diabetes more likely. more likely, right? So it
More
may actually give you diabetes. So
well, I could see the spin on that easily because, and we talk about the situation that Justin's going through right now, because
how you come out of it.
Yeah, because I think that I'm sure Sal's going to rattle this off in a minute, but there's probably a very high statistic to how many people stick to a restricted diet like this forever. And so the coming off part is probably where the high risk comes from, right?
It's actually even better than that. So you read that title, and this is what I really fucking hate about media. Media is super sensationalist. So that's what they put out. And people read it. Nobody does their research. Nobody digs deeper to see what's going on. So everybody reads this, and I'm getting all these messages like, oh my God, keto's bad. This and that.
Is that the one that Lane shared?
No.
Oh, okay.
I hope not.
I thought Lane shared.
I hope not, because he's smarter than that. So dig a little deeper. So my friend Max Lugavere dug deeper, and he did a story on this, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I was cracking up. So I went and looked it up myself. First off, it was a rat study. So they did this on mice, and they fed the mice a very, very high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. And yes, the rats that ate the high-fat diet did have higher, markers for diabetes and issues. Now let's dig a little deeper. What was the fat that they were consuming? Well, they were fed this rat mouse chow food that they were given. Well, what's that made up of?
Yeah.
It's almost entirely made up of hydrogenated vegetable oils. So they were feeding the rats a ketogenic diet that was made up of
all vegetable oils,
highly processed, like hydrogenated, soybean oil or corn oil or whatever, safflower or whatever.
the worst.
Pure garbage, shit that we know for sure already is bad for you. But this is just a great example of how shitty articles can be or titles. There, you read that and you're like, oh no, this keto diet that I'm doing to help me lower my risk of diabetes may actually, well, no, it's fine. Nobody ever said eat shit. And that's, by the way, speaking of Lane, that's a nice little, that macros aren't all that's cracked up to be, because of course, if you do a keto diet with high fat, but it's mostly hydrogenated fats, not healthy.
Not going to have the best result.
You do it with the natural fats like, olive oil, things in their natural state, coconut oil, animal fats, from high quality sources, lowers your risk of diabetes. So how do you like that?
Dude.
So crazy.
Shenanigans.
Dude, I read an article today that blew my mind. I actually heard it on the radio first, and then I got to research this and look into this more. So this PhD student over in Singapore has invented chopsticks that actually...
They already existed.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding. Chopsticks? I'm making a joke. Sorry. Dad joke.
Yeah, bad dad joke and bad timing.
Help me, Justin.
Bro, you confused him too.
Yeah, because you jumped in so quickly there.
Damn
That one didn't work.
Yeah. So these chopsticks
I'll help you.
actually stimulate the tongue. So they shock the tongue to stimulate flavor. So you can take bland food and he did. It's fucking amazing, bro. I'll send it over so Doug can pull this up. So it sends electrodes.
That might make me want to eat less.
So you literally have it has like a little spark, like a little charge.
Well,
to it.
think about this. Okay, when we bite into something, our tongue is what tells us sweet, sour, bitter, salty. Right? We know this.
Yeah.
So he's hijacking that through an
electrical impulse.
Yes. And he's been able to formulate it to replace salt. So things that are really, and he's doing this with like sushi and sodium, really high sodium foods. And so that's where he started this. Are you looking it up right now, Doug? Yes.
They can make food tastier.
So but
does it hurt?
No. It's
so you don't get shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that people are probably thinking you get no, you don't get shocked, and that's not what makes you not eat the goddamn thing, because it's fucking shocking your tongue. All it does is send electrodes through this chopstick, and it gives you the sensation of it being salty.
You actually perceive it to be more salty.
100%.
Whoa!
And it can have no salt in it.
Whoa! What if they get like super advanced with this?
They're working on,
and then you could just taste what you could program your chopsticks. I want this broccoli to taste like pizza.
That's what this article talks about, is that this is the front end of it, and that the future of it is that they haven't hacked into sweet yet. He says sweet is one of the hardest ones.
Oh yeah.
But they've been able to do bitter. They've been able to do salt, and it's working unbelievably for people. So that was the reason why it was created, for all the people that have high risk with high salt.
Oh my God! If they get
hacking into the
bro,
feedback.
You know how brilliant this is.
Well, if they get this right,
dude, you could eat whole bland foods, and like, could you imagine eating something and be able to trick your brain into thinking that it's a much higher, but then not have to get the calories from it.
Now,
where's
the
the concern? Yeah, as far as like doing that too frequently and how your body's going to start to kind of maybe downregulate.
I don't know. You're not ingesting it.
Yeah, well, I could see the benefits, but I could also see potential problems. Like, what if, you make something super highly palatable, you still overconsume it. So there's always that problem. Yeah. It's better for you. But, if you sit down and eat, 5 chicken breasts in a row, because it's like this shocking. You're like, oh my God, it's pizza.
So good.
It's nachos. You know what I'm saying? You still might cause yourself some problem.
What the hell?
Knowing how people are, especially Americans.
I want to know how somebody figured this out. They stick their tongue in a light socket or what?
I think it's incredibly brilliant, and I could see
it tastes like snozberries.
I could see it. I could see it doing some really, really cool things, man. I mean, just even if you imagine,
it is brilliant. If they can get that,
that's crazy, man. That's mind blowing.
Well, restaurants will go out of business because then I'll just open a restaurant with shitty food and I'll be like, we have the best technology of all restaurants. Every bite is the best.
Chopsticks are relevant now.
Imagine though if someone could, you serve you with this whole foods that isn't drowned in oils and butters and salts and so that to make it taste good, and you could eat it bland like that, but then it gives you the sensation that it is full of flavor and salty and sweet or whatever.
Well, so this opens a Pandora's box. Like, what if you could trick? What if at some point I'm sure we'll be able to figure this out.
We will.
Where you could trick your senses for anything.
Yeah.
Where you could literally trick yourself into like, my partner's kind of boring now. Let me do this. Bzz, I like him again. Or, like, I hate this job. Bzz, I love my job. Like you could totally
just shock your partner.
Yeah, you could totally, hijack your body.
I'm horny.
Making you do the things that you think you should do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the thing about nutrition that I've communicated in exercise. I've communicated many, many times. One of the biggest hurdles that people have with exercise and nutrition is they get so focused on the goal that becomes that becomes everything. That's the be all end all. And one thing that you end up learning when you do this long enough is that the goal is nothing. It's the journey. It's learning the whole process, learning to enjoy these natural foods because of what they provide your body, learning to enjoy exercise for the sake of exercising. It's like it's like somebody who meditates on the top of a mountain for 30 years and achieves enlightenment, and then you got a guy taking psychedelics who's like, I saw God too, and maybe they both saw the same thing, but what about that 30-year journey and everything that was learned in that process?
Yeah, that's
what I'm saying?
the great book on that, The Alchemist. I mean, that's what that's all about. I think
really?
I think every part of our life is like that. Think of how many people spend their whole life, wanting to reach a financial goal, and then just to find out that the real fun and the real learning and the real great part of that goal was the process to get there. Yeah. And a lot of times somebody asked me a question just recently on I did a story, and they said, like, how awesome is your life right now? I said, man, it's fucking great, dude. I said, I'm with my dream girl. I drive my dream car. I'm with my dream job, with my dream partners. And I said, but I don't live in my dream house. I said, so I'm filled with gratitude, but I'm extremely focused and driven. So, and I think that's just it, is that, there's nothing wrong with setting goals. There's nothing wrong with being driven and focused towards something. But at the same time, too, I think you have to pause and realize and be present that this is where the magic really is and all this. I mean, we had a thing. We all just posted a Throwback Thursday picture on all of our Instagram because Doug sent over some photos of the original.
God, how fun was it looking at those?
No, it is. Yeah. It's like, it's not even that long ago, dude. It's just 4 years.
I have never experienced this in my entire life. I've always done what I've loved. So it's like I've never done a job. I mean, besides the odd ones when I was a kid, but for most of my career, I've done what I've loved because I've been in fitness. But I've never experienced time move so quickly in my entire life with work. Like we've been working together now, 3 years, Doug? Is it three and a half years? And when I look at the old pictures, I can see it's been a long time. Like, oh shit, remember the old place in Doug's living room, and look at that, and remember when Adam was competing? But it flew by so fast,
done
dude.
A lot of shit.
And simultaneously, because I've only known you guys, I've known Doug longer, but I've only known you, Adam, and you, Justin, for 3.5 years. Yeah. I feel like I have also simultaneously known you guys for my whole life. It's very, very strange.
No, it's for sure.
It's a very interesting thing. I do want to comment, though. Adam, you posted the picture of you and I doing the Predator thing.
Yeah.
Okay? And that was a time that I actually did dye my beard and dye my hair. So I have this really dark black hair and dark black beard. And there was like 6 or 7 comments from women
who
say, Sal's salt and pepper looks much better.
Now, they did. I want to concur here, right? They did say that, but here's the thing, though: is I want to get a hold of that because your hair was a fucking mess then, so was your beard. So
wait, you wanted him to just dye the beard,
exactly,
and keep the salt.
Yes, I want the salt and pepper look.
Argument is a little skewed.
It is skewed, and your hair looks terrible in that picture. Your hair's done much better. So whoever the Supercuts person that's working there now is way better.
That was actually a salon.
Yeah,
okay. That was
so
a salon.
they did
it was with the bowl.
Yeah, so you
know what though? I'm gonna throw something else at you. So I did a bunch of stories for Christina Rice for her Instagram page.
Yeah.
One of our favorite people, right? Great podcast. And she wanted me to do a story to answer some questions about resistance training because she has a large following of young women who she tells them, you got to lift weights, just lift weights. Watch out, you don't need to do tons of cardio. And when you lift weights, focus on strength, though, do circuits and the stuff that we communicate. And some of her followers have been doing it and have been reporting back and saying, oh my God, I'm getting great results. But then other followers are like, no, that's too good to be true. I don't think it works. So she's like, Sal, can you make an instant bunch of stories for me explaining why this works? And so I did. You know what some of her comments were? How does he get his salt and pepper beard and to look so perfect? And I like his salt. She sent it to me to show me. So fuck you,
I want to see those. I want to see those screenshots.
So there you go. There you go,
dude. Just let me get a hold of it for one time. That's all, dude.
That's funny.
Let me get a hold of it one time.
I'll do it only if we have like someone like Enzo record it, because that would make a great video. Of you styling my beard.
So I'm not going to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to my hairstylist.
They do beards.
Yes, God. She lines. You think this magical beard gets like this by me? No, bro. Someone asked me that too. They're
magical.
Like, they're like, how do you line your beard up? So I'm like, I don't fucking do it. I pay someone to do that. So. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to pay her to shape your beard, and then we're going to dye the beard, but we're going to leave the top. The top looks incredible, I think. Yeah. And it'll look...
Doesn't that look weird? Salt and pepper and then black.
Oh, you're going to look like that guy from Magic Mike.
Dude. The
one that... Dude.
Like a male stripper.
And
I don't know if I want to do that.
Dude, just people got to trust me a little bit on this one.
I like my wisdom to show.
No, I like your salt and pepper. We don't want to get rid of it, dude. It looks good on you. It does look good on you. I'm not trying to do it. So it looks great on Justin too. You guys have great. You guys have good salt and
mine's
pepper.
A little further along.
Your hair?
The grayness.
What about your beard? If you grow it out, do you have more than I do?
You probably actually have more in your beard than I would. Yeah.
When was the last time you grew your beard out?
Your wife doesn't like it.
I don't get action. That's why you don't see it on me very often. So
I can see that.
Sometimes I do the beard. Yeah, I do the beard as like kind of a
retaliation.
Yeah, man.
Like, if you don't give it to me for a while.
La resistance.
That's it, I'm growing the beard.
You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna go in my corner and just hang out and be a man and wear flannels and grow a beard.
What about the gray? Because you have almost no gray hairs. I see a few on your beard.
No, it's coming. Yeah, the beards. Every time I go,
yours fall out. The gray ones are just like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
Jump ship.
But do you guys have any gray chest hairs?
Yeah, man. I got like a white one that I found the other day.
Just one?
But I get grays in there too.
Me too.
It's like sparse.
What about pubes?
Nope.
Yep.
I'm still clear there.
It's progressed,
bro. I've had at least three, at least three now, and that's when you know.
You better get that life insurance policy.
Bro, exactly. Yeah. That's when you know your body's like, fuck it, like it's got other more important things to worry about.
You're old. I'm gonna show you.
Because your body, basically, the way I imagine is you got this control room. And there's like all these people working to keep your body in check. And they're like, okay, we got heart. We got to keep the heart healthy, liver, kidneys, make sure the bones stay strong. And then just the list. And then there's like
our resources.
Yeah, and there's like hair color.
Spread the resources.
Yeah. And they're like in this, and they're like, fuck, we need to divert more resources. What can go? Like, eyesight? No, we need eyesight. Like, okay, pubes, fuck it. Nobody, hey, you on the pubes, come here.
We
need
help. More pigment there.
Yeah, so it's just my body's just giving up. You know what I mean?
It's allocating resources other places, right?
Yeah, that's what I'll die. I'll make sure I get the. Does your hairstylist do that?
Yeah, we'll ask her.
Little Brazilian.
So how much for downstairs too?
I don't mind. You know what's funny though? I like gray chest hairs.
I like the Brazilian forest.
Yeah. You ever seen a dude I've seen this a couple times, kind of rare, at the pool, an older, fit, buff dude with gray hair and gray chest hairs. He just looks like he looks like an alpha bear. You know what I mean? Like, look at that dude. He's an
alpha bear.
Yeah, like a champion.
That definitely sounds like, like one of the guys. Like you got your bears, you got your like twinks.
Did I fuck up there?
I feel like alpha bear.
I didn't mean it that way, but
Like it's sounds like a tough gay guy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like a tough gay guy.
I think a bear.
He's got, like, a gold chain.
No, I think a bear and gay.
I'll treat you right.
Come over here.
Come on, I'm gonna buy you a drink.
No, I don't think that's what bear is. So I used to have the dude.
Come in the jacuzzi.
So I used to have a client.
Keep your mouth
aggressive.
Yeah.
Make sure you wear that little underwear.
Just bite your lip.
Yeah. The purple ones.
I used to have a client.
I like those grape underwear you got on.
Almost slap you silly.
Whoa! You guys need to relax.
Oh, gray bear. Be nice.
Gray bear. Yeah. I used to train. So I trained this dude. He was a gay guy. I became good friends with him, and he used to love telling me about all the lingo and stuff. And bears are big, overweight, hairy dudes. Not buffed, ripped, hairy dudes. Yeah, they have to be kind of.
What do they call the super muscular guys?
I don't know. There's a bunch of different twinks, bears, and then there's
we should get an expert on.
There's a sparkle pony. I think that's another one.
Sparkle pony?
I think so. Sparkle pony.
Wow, maybe that's fantastic.
Maybe that's the girls at Burning Man. He was telling me all these different names.
Well, I know we have a lot of gay listeners. We got to have someone hook us up.
Yeah, we do.
With
there's a whole list.
All right, I want the list. What I mean? Someone DM me the list.
You know what it shows
with
me?
the definitions.
Yeah, I don't think lesbians have all these names.
You know what I want? I want the list.
I don't know. It's a good question.
I want the list from one of our listeners, and then I want
lipstick. Right?
What each one of us, Sal, Doug, myself.
What would we be called?
Yeah, what would we if we were a gay guy?
Community.
Yeah, where would we fall in the category?
Yeah. Make sure you DM that to Adam.
That'd be fun. Yeah, definitely Adam.
Without dick pics, please.
No more of those. But it's typical, right? It's still a bunch of men. This is what guys do. Fucking label shit and make it and trivialize the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Cracks me up. But yeah, he used to tell me all this stuff, and then he would tell me all the other terms like. Fuck, all kinds of crazy shit. He used to try and get me embarrassed, this guy. You guys ever a client like that? Tries to embarrass you with that kind of shit?
Yeah.
This motherfucker.
No, that's funny, though.
Once they get comfortable with you, yeah.
Oh, I had another client who I trained for a long time. He was I'm not going to say what position he had because he was a little bit private about it. But I used to train this dude I trained him for like 2 years. Super cool dude. Hell, fucking love the guy. We were like good friends. Single. He was single. Super good looking and fit as hell. And I remember I used to tell him like, dude, why are you single, bro? You just want to hook up with a bunch of chicks. He kind of giggled, but he never said anything.
Yeah.
So then I would have like female clients that I thought were, attractive or friends, and I'd try and set him up all the time. And he was never interested. I couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on. Or about 2 years into our training or whatever, he's like, hey, I want you to train my really, really good friend. We're like really close, whatever. And this guy comes in, and then this guy is like, very outwardly gay, very talks about whatever, and I'm like, then I start training him again. I'm like, is that your boyfriend? And he starts laughing. He goes, you didn't know? He's like, I haven't told him. You never thought I was gay this whole time. I'm like, no, had no idea. Like, why don't you tell me? I thought we were close.
Not that close.
Come on, man.
Not that close.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway,
you're not on the inside.
Hey, you got to give a shout out to one of our other sponsors, Organifi. This is like the third time they've been sharing my story. I don't know what.
It's because you're doing your recipes.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I will say this:
that's great.
I have been tagged now on several people who are making Organifi shakes, throwing egg yolks in them.
Oh yeah,
that's becoming a thing now.
No. I mean, and I give you the credit. People ask me that all the time. I have to explain.
Pat yourself on the back.
I got to explain all that. They're like, I don't understand. Why do you not throw the whole?
Someone's gonna get salmonella. I just want to say this right now. I don't advocate
Sal slinging the salmonella.
Yeah, I don't advocate.
Well, isn't it less likely you're going to with just the yolks?
It's actually pretty unlikely, but there's still a risk of it. So that's why they say don't do
like
it.
a 1% or whatever.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad people are taking advantage of the athletic benefits and boost of cholesterol.
Yeah. Well, it's a great. What I like about it is, I talk all the time on the show about how hard it is for me to get my protein intake up, and so I already have to incorporate the shake, especially right now what we're doing. So it's an easy way for me to boost protein, get some extra cholesterol after post workout. So actually I like the way it makes the shake frothier. Mm-hmm. So it makes the shake, I think, taste better. So it's like, fuck, this is awesome.
But I'm not just making this up, by the way. There's been several studies that have showed they actually took a group of older people and had them and divided them and had one group eat normal and another group eat 400 milligrams of cholesterol a day and another group eat 800, I believe, milligrams. And the higher the cholesterol that they consumed, the more strength and the more muscle they gained when they worked out. Really, really low cholesterol is also correlated with weakness, muscle weakness, and loss of muscle and strength. really, really low cholesterol actually has a higher relationship to all-cause mortality than than above average cholesterol.
So crazy because the message has been so different.
Yeah, people don't realize
It's completely opposite.
the cholesterol molecule is a steroid. People don't know that. It's an actual steroid, and it is the building block for hormones. That's what your body will use many times to make hormones. It's got very important functions in the body. If it didn't, your body wouldn't produce its own. This is why the human body is so interesting. If you consume a shit ton of cholesterol, your liver produces less of it typically, and that's why eating more cholesterol usually, not always, but usually doesn't raise your total blood cholesterol. It's because your liver starts to regulate it. And the reason why our bodies do this is because it's necessary. It's a necessary thing. It's been demonized for so long. And the FDA now says that cholesterol is no longer a nutrient of concern, but it hasn't made enough of a... I don't know why people aren't sharing that more.
Yeah.
Because that was for a long... When I was growing up...
You don't see a lot of products in the grocery store that's like highlighting the fact that and with X amount of cholesterol.
No.
Marketed. Yeah.
That's because for 30 years, cholesterol was
scared shitless of it.
Super, super demonized. And foods that were low in cholesterol were advertised as such, right?
Right.
So.
Speaking of things that are bad for you, I think it was it Max Lugavere that just shared something about the Cheerios, the article that just came out on
Yeah, they did a whole study on Cheerios and some other popular kid cereals and found glyphosate residues.
Yes, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay, you did see that.
Glyphosates are the herbicides that like Monsanto makes, or Roundup or whatever, that just lost the lawsuit because the plaintiff said that it gave him cancer. And the World Health Organization says is a probable carcinogen. Definitely has antibiotic properties in the body, so you consume this over long periods of time, and the belief is it could disrupt your microbiome and cause leaky gut syndrome and autoimmune issues.
Wasn't like General Mills and Cheerios, weren't they trying to like start steering into like more organic, at least grains, non-GMO grains, and so that just happened. They tested it.
Here's the problem, and I'm going to scare everybody, but about 70% of
rain, right?
70% of rainwater you'll find in some studies will have glyphosates because
off from soil.
We've been spraying so many millions and millions of tons of glyphosates on our crops worldwide. China is massive now with this as well. Yeah. That this stuff goes up into the air and then it comes down as rain. So now you're eating organic food to avoid glyphosates, but guess what? You're getting a little bit of glyphosates on that as well. Or you're drinking organic milk, but guess what? Your grass-fed cow or grass-fed meat, your cow has been eating grass that's been rained on with glyphosates, and it's really a fucked up situation. I don't remember who it was I was talking to. It might have been
Bush, Dr. Bush.
Yeah, it might have been Dr. Zach Bush.
Zach Bush.
He says if we stopped using glyphosates now, it would take over 100 years for that shit to clear out. But it's so much is being used, and we're in such a situation where to move away from them, you'd probably cause some food shortages and issues for people. So it's a weird predicament that we're in right now.
We sort of have to deal with it.
This Quah is brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's Organifi.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout. All right, our first question is from Carmen Alessa. What is your opinion on power napping? Is it beneficial? If so, how would you incorporate it?
Yes, Carmen, one of our hardcore followers, she's like this ripped weightlifter in Germany. I don't know if you guys ever looked at her profile.
I have.
Yeah, anyway, really cool. She asks good questions. This is a great question. Now, power napping, here's the thing with power napping. If you can actually nap, because that's the big if.
Yeah.
If you can actually nap, tremendous benefits. When they do studies on people who are able to take a 20 to 40 minute nap, and that's what a nap is, by the way. Usually, typically anything longer than that, and you start to get into the deeper stages of sleep, and waking up out of those, you actually come out of it much more drowsy. Have you guys ever experienced that? Where
of course.
You fall asleep in the middle of the day.
Yeah, if you drop into REM and you break REM, dude, it's a fucking nightmare.
Every time I go too long, and then try and come back, it's like super groggy. Or there's literally a fine line with that. It can only be so long.
Well, I think that's the answer to this question, because I tried this for a while. Matter of fact, I had a client who, you ever seen that there's people that do this where they don't ever sleep like a full night. They do these power naps all day long throughout the day. And she gave me this CD, and you're supposed to listen to it and I tried to do it for like a few days. I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't do this. Yeah. But the thing that one, isn't our REM sleep the most beneficial sleep that we get?
It's hard to say. That's what they say, but all of the stages have an importance, important role in sleep.
I know that it takes the average person, I believe, about 2 hours before they drop into.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, if you don't get into that at all, you're probably not a good idea.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, right? I think there is benefits to it, especially if you were lacking sleep the night before and then going and getting a power nap. I could see the value in it. But then I could also see easily, because you're tired, you go do a power nap, and that power nap of 20 minutes turns into 2 hours.
You're going to wake up.
Isn't it very similar to the effects you'd get from meditating at that point if it's just like a power nap?
No.
It's only like 10 minutes?
No, it's not actually. It's so when they do studies on this, and people will be tired, and then they'll have them take a 30-minute nap, a 15 to 30-minute nap. People wake up and they're
like refreshed,
far more alert. Memory is much better. It's more effective than any stimulant that they compare it against. So like caffeine is good. Look, caffeine is great if you're tired and you need to wake up and become more alert and improve your memory and improve your performance. But a nap is even better. A nap is even more effective. The problem with napping is most people can't take a nap.
Yeah.
You know how many people are like, oh my God, I'm so tired, and they'll lay down for 20 minutes and they end up just laying there with their eyes closed.
You can't even get there, yeah.
So what I started doing is I started recommending to my family and friends, because I can do that. I can fall asleep whenever I want.
You are the nap master, bro.
Yeah.
You are the fucking
Nap master.
You are.
Just put him in a car.
That's a weird superhero.
Before Napster was around, you were the Napster, bro, for sure. You seriously? We were just talking about this off air the other day. I cannot. I was telling Taylor, I can't fucking believe this guy. Like, we literally get on a plane. We're not even off the fucking tarmac yet, dude. And this dude is out.
Yeah, it's a superhero. It's
driving. I'll be driving. We're not even out of the parking lot. We just rented the truck, dude. We get out of the parking lot. I look over to my fucking navigator. Hey, we're sleeping already. Asleep, dude.
Isn't that great? What do they call it? Soldiers, like being able to sleep like a soldier. Soldiers are able to sleep.
Well, that's what I remember from. I forget the CEO's name for Brain FM, but like when we had him in here and he was getting ready before the podcast, he was just like literally he was sleeping. And he was like on the ground. He was listening to, like I think they had like a specific napping, song that he was using, which I've actually used sometimes, which was great.
It works. That's what I was just going to say. So the people that I've told, like, oh, take a nap, like Jessica cannot take a nap. Like, no matter how tired she is, if she tries to fall asleep in the middle of the day, either she won't be able to, or she has to be so tired that she literally crashes out. Yeah. In which case she's out for like 2 hours.
Has she used Brain FM yet?
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, I was going to say.
If I give her Brain FM, she can take a 20-minute nap.
That's the only way I can. That is the only way that I can, because I do not have that crazy ninja ability that you have to just drop into it. Mm-hmm. I have like that, and that was why Brain FM was such a game changer for me, and has been for anybody that has experienced this also. So if you're somebody, one, you are restless at night, you have a hard time sleeping, or two, you can't get into a nap, or even have a hard time with meditating. Mm-hmm. So those three, and they do the focusing. So I mean, there's so many things on there on that app that's so worth the fucking annual payment that you pay to have access to all of it, dude. It's powerful.
So I'm about to give you guys like the most gangster wakefulness hack ever of all times.
Wakefulness
hack. Hack. So check this out. So what you do, and I've done this several times, and you wake up like you're fucking on fire, like amazing. So what you do, take some caffeine, then put your Brain FM on and take a nap.
So now
the caffeine will kick in,
like in pill form.
Pill form. I don't give a fuck how you take it. I'll do it in pill form. 30 minutes into your nap, the caffeine will wake you up. Mm-hmm. You wake up, now you've taken a nap, so not only have you rested, but now you've got that caffeine kicking in.
It helps kind of transition you out of it.
Bro, you wake up and you're like,
now you got
amazing.
Now there's
you got to time that.
Yeah, you got to time that.
Yeah, don't take the caffeine, wait 15 minutes, then take a nap.
No. And you're somebody who I know that has to work pretty well with, because you have the ability to drop right in. So if you're not using Brain FM, good luck with that, because there's no way I 100%, whenever I've had to sit down or lay down to try and take a nap, if I'm not using some sort of a tool to help me fall asleep, I'll toss and turn or lay there at least 20 to 30 minutes before I even fall asleep for 20 to 30 minutes. Yeah. So for me, that would just fuck me. But I haven't done it with Brain FM. So I'm down for the Pepsi challenge.
The clearest and sharpest I've ever been was when I did that. I took a nap, came out of that with caffeine, but added like CBD, like that combo you showed me.
Yes.
Oh my God. I was on pure fire. It was like clean, pure fire coming out.
CBD's got an interesting,
interesting
effect with caffeine. Theanine is another one that you can combine with caffeine that make it feel really smooth and awesome. But it's a great little hack to do is to, because you still, if you're really, really sleepy and you have 20 to 30 minutes, you want to be able to, if you can, fall asleep. Brain FM helps. Here's another little trick that I've taught clients that seems to help them. So one of the reasons why I think I'm able to fall asleep so well is I've developed these techniques and habits that I do when I close my eyes that actually help me fall asleep. And I didn't realize it because I've been doing them since I was a kid. And by the way, do you guys know why I can take a nap so easily?
Why?
So when I was a kid, I used to get car sick really easy in the back of the car. And my mom would tell me, just fall asleep, just try to take a nap. And I used to hate, there's nothing worse than feeling nauseous. I hate that feeling. So I learned how to be able to close my eyes in the back of the car and fall asleep. And one of the things that I would do is when I would close my eyes, I would literally focus on seeing the inside of my eyelids. I know that sounds weird, but if you close your eyes and you look at the inside of your eyelids, you start to make out shapes and things on the inside of your eyelids, and you start to almost kind of trip out a little bit.
Geometric patterns and stuff.
And what it does is you're focusing on something rather than thinking about the outside world. Because the key to falling asleep, in my opinion, is to forget that you're awake. If you forget that you're awake, you fall asleep. And one of the ways you could do that is by meditating or focusing on something like the inside of your eyelids. Because the second I'm taken away by what's going on outside right now, or what are they saying right now as they're talking around?
I have this work to get done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I'm just focusing on the inside of my eyelids, and I'm making out shapes and seeing what I can see, and I got to keep pushing myself to get into it, and then boom, next thing I know, I'm snoring away, and I wake myself up because I snore.
Next question is from Art of April. Why are there people who can eat a ton of junk food, never work out, and have an amazing body? Can you explain how this happens?
Oh, this is genetics, man.
Yeah.
This is why we also have people that are these superhuman freak bodybuilders that can be 300 pounds and 3% body fat and have massive muscle and eat 3,000 calories. I mean, it's a combination of, like, when you see somebody like that, I think of it's a combination of a lot of things. One, they have an incredible digestive system. Two, their body hangs on to muscle really well. Their body utilizes calories really good. I mean, you can have.
It doesn't last forever though.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think if you poison it long enough and you hammer it long enough, that I think eventually the body will say F you. But I mean, I definitely think there's people that have a genetic advantage in these areas. But so what I used to always say too to clients that would ask this, I'd say, well, would you want that genetic advantage?
Right.
I mean, because there's something that, like, part of why, like, sometimes it's weird. It's like sometimes I look at, like, my stupid mistakes with the, getting the gynecomastia, and then I have psoriasis, and so I've got all these fucking issues that I used to would initially feel sorry for myself, and then I have a flip look at it. Like, I go, you know what though? Like, I'm so ultra sensitive because of those things that when I stray off on the diet a little bit, or if I don't fuel my body the way it should be fueled, I have these things that, like, my body tells me. I can sense it, I can feel it, I can see it, which keeps me on track and keeps me fueling my body properly, because I don't want that. I don't want my psoriasis to flare up. I don't want the gynecomastia to flare up. So it makes me change my diet, or make sure that I'm lifting and doing exercise, or makes me cut back on the marijuana. So instead, would it be better that I didn't have any of those signals that told me, and then what would happen then?
Then the signal is a heart attack,
right?
Or diabetes.
No, exactly. You know, and then how many times did you guys train somebody who was skinny fat? Right. I used to tell clients this too. Like, you come in and they'd be like so down on themselves because they look fat, they feel fat. I'm like, well, your body's expressing what you've been doing for a long time. You know what? It's better than the person that I got right before you, who was 115 pounds and their body fat percentage was 3% higher than yours, and they're 100 pounds lighter than you. Like, that person has a lot of internal organ fat around their liver, fat around their heart. That's way more stressful. That's way more scary. And the fact that they look in the mirror and they think they're healthy because they're looking at themselves and they look skinny. So I don't know. Is it an advantage?
I agree with you. There's a sizable percentage. It's a minority, but it's sizable. And I think it's something like 20 or 30%. It might even be higher percentage of people with metabolic syndrome or diabetes are normal weight. Okay, so these are people that don't have, they're not overweight. They appear to be normal weight or whatever, but they develop diabetes. Same thing for heart attacks. Heart attacks, there's a sizable minority of people, and it's a large percentage of people who had normal measurements and normal weight or whatever, who end up getting a heart attack. And believe it or not, I believe I read this somewhere, and maybe I'll get corrected if I'm wrong, they actually have a higher rate of dying from the heart attack than people who might actually be overweight. So, and I look at it the same way, Adam. Look, I had gut issues, in my early 30s that were terrible that I have to contend with now. However, I would not, for sure, not be nearly as, intelligent with my intuitive eating or being able to communicate what I communicate on the show had I not gone through that and had this very visible, very obvious sign that was telling me you got to eat a particular way. If I had no signs, I would have never learned. Because initially it's like, I just want to get healthy. And then it's like constantly reminding me. And eventually I start to get to this place where I really understand how to do things the right way. Not just because I don't want my gut to go bad, but because now I'm making friends with it and I'm learning how to live in a different way. And so I've said this to clients too. So I have some clients that get acne when they eat a particular way. And I'm like, well, that's a very visible sign. Mm-hmm. You actually, consider it a blessing that your body is telling you with something as benign as acne versus something that could be terrible, like a really bad autoimmune disorder or disease. Because that's what happens a lot of times. A lot of times you got people who here's the deal. You can get away with poor health only so long. And by the way, your aesthetics start to follow at some point anyway. Mm-hmm. I have a friend that I used to work with in the gym, and this dude ate terribly. He worked out like shit and just always looked amazing. He always looked good. And I remember being angry and jealous. Like, this fucker's got such good genetics. He can do whatever he wants, and he's fucking buffed and ripped all the time, this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? The guy now is 40. I know him, and he looks like shit now. He never learned any of those habits, and it caught up with them. Yeah. And at some point it caught up. Now, on the flip side, people who've had to work hard at it and learn it, now they've developed these habits, and now they're 40 and 50 and whatever, and they look great. Remember, your aesthetics follows health. Health does not follow aesthetics. It doesn't go the way around. If you just focus on your aesthetics, many times your health doesn't follow it, and especially if you're only aesthetic focused, especially if it's all about how you look, because that tends to drive you to do things that are unhealthy. Starve yourself or overeat like I did, take supplements or drugs that aren't healthy for you, or get lots of, plastic surgery procedures or whatever, and just treat yourself terribly. And your health doesn't follow that. Your health tends to get worse. Now, on the flip side, when you focus on your health, the aesthetics start to follow, especially as you start to age. Now, why do some people get away with this? Metabolism is a mysterious fucking thing. It's probably the second most complex thing in the universe that we've ever studied, second to the brain, is animal metabolism. It's a very strange thing. We still haven't figured out quite how it works, where one person can eat so much, another person can eat so little, and they have totally different effects. Why we can change the microbiome of someone to get leaner. We just learned that recently. That's fucking weird. How can I speed up some? Here's another one that there's still debate around, which I can't wait till the science proves that we're right. Why is it that I can speed up someone's metabolism by 800 calories a day and they only gain 4 pounds of muscle? It doesn't translate. 4 pounds of muscle doesn't turn into 800 more calories a day. Why are they burning so many calories? We know the process of reverse dieting and strength training and all that stuff, but science still has yet to explain how the hell that person's burning so many more calories. This is why there's still this debate. You get these nutrition scientists are saying, oh, speeding up your metabolism and reverse dieting is a myth. And those of us who've worked with clients forever are like, no, it's pretty much works almost every single time. Right. It's just a very complex thing. And some people we don't quite know what's going on. I like to call people who stay really skinny and eat a lot of food, they have a inefficient metabolism. Now, that's an advantage today in modern times, right? Today we have so much food. We're surrounded by so much food, highly palatable food. We don't move that much. It's probably an advantage to have a metabolism that wastes calories.
Isn't that funny? Maybe if it was thousands of years earlier,
it would be a disadvantage.
They would be the person that would die off first.
Yeah.
Well, if your metabolism wasting calories and food is not available, and oh shit, for the next 3 months because it's winter and we're in a tribe and all we have is
you're gonna freeze to death.
Yeah, 500 calories a day that we could all eat
and starve.
Yeah, the dude with the metabolism who utilizes every single calorie as efficiently as possible.
And lots of muscle, no body fat.
Is in a better, well, I'm talking about the guy who has an efficient metabolism is going to survive. The guy who has an inefficient metabolism was just, for whatever reason, the metabolism is burning calories like crazy. They're not in a good situation. They're not in a good.
I know people too that like, and they mentioned like not working out either. Like I know some people that like just they look like normal. Like they don't look like, like obese or fat or like they carry it and it's distributed pretty much throughout their body. But like over the years, like you just always see like this slow sort of decay internally, and just like how their strength just diminishes and they can't do things anymore. And so it's very much of an illusion.
I trained a lot of cheerleaders, models, and I would get these girls that would come in, and I was always blown away when I'd go to measure their body fat, because they look great. You look at their calendars, you look at their body, and like. But and
it's like 28%.
Yeah, their body fat percentage would be so high for how skinny and how lean they were. But then it all made sense when I'd ask their diet, and I'd hear what they eat, and they'd be like, "Oh, I have jalapeno poppers from Jack in the Box. That's it." And then I snack on carrots the rest of the day.
I have 6 chicken nuggets a day.
Yeah, no, literally, this is a common diet. It's like, I eat celery all day, and then at night I typically have like Jack in the Box tacos or something like that. It's like, whoa, dude, so you're eating like 1,000 calories, and most of those calories are coming from some fucking garbage.
Some people store body fat in
like favorable places.
Oh, dude, right? I have cousins like this who they eat and they gain 20 pounds, and it's like boobs and butt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everybody's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I store genetics, man.
Yeah, I store it all in the.
But again, I go back to like, there's. It's a trade-off, right? Like those people are lucky because it goes to these great places that they think it's good, but then those people too,
they don't get the discipline to go with it.
Right? They're the ones that they're not forced to, like someone like us who's had issues that like I've got to figure this shit out now. I'm glad I'm figuring it out now in my 30s and trying to figure it out when I'm 60 and told, because I'm waking up from a heart attack, right?
Right.
And the doctor's like, hey, you need to change all these things.
Yeah, I'd rather have visible signs of unhealth, so that way I know like where I'm at and where I stand, versus this, going through life like everything's fine and just sort of like taking it as it comes.
Dude, I have an uncle who at the age of, I want to say 48 or whatever, he wasn't super healthy and fit, but he wasn't unhealthy. His body weight, he was maybe 10, 15 pounds overweight. And every once in a while he'd go on a hike or a walk, and his diet wasn't perfect, but it wasn't terrible. And at 48 years old, he was hiking one day, and then he had crazy upper mid back pain. He's like, what the fuck is going on? My God, that hurts so bad. He was having trouble breathing with it. And luckily he was smart enough to call an ambulance. Ambulance came, and he was having a massive heart attack out of nowhere. And he did what is it called? The Widowmaker, where they do like a triple bypass on him.
Oh yeah.
There was all kinds of fucked up shit with his arteries. Had no other signs that there was anything wrong with him, because his body weight was kind of normal, and he wasn't super active, but he would walk and do hikes and stuff like that, and boom, that's a sign. Now for me personally, I think that's a curse. I hope my sign is my gut goes off, or I have skin issues, or I gain some body fat. Like, okay, there's the little red lights that are popping up before the big red light comes up, because that's what happens. You ignore your body long enough, and it just gets louder and louder. Yep. This also highlights something else, and that's this. Don't worry about other people. Worry about just yourself. That's the cards you were dealt. And looking at other people and thinking about how unfair things are is a road.
It's wasted energy.
It's a road to depression, sadness, jealousy, envy. It also doesn't help. Doesn't do anything for you. Instead of worrying about it, look, there's lots of people with way better genetics than me who can build more muscle and be a lot stronger. And you know what I think? Good for them. I have what I have to work with, and this is what I'm going to work with. If I start getting jealous and angry at other people, that's a bad road. That's a bad road to head down.
Next question is from Court K5. What are your views on training every body part to keep consistency and overall balance rather than training certain areas you want to build? Every time I train my chest, I immediately drop in my cup size, so I shy away from training my chest. Do you feel I will create imbalances? What do you recommend for keeping feminine features while building some solid muscle?
This is an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't think she's dropping a cup size from training chest, though. I don't think there's some spot reduction going on.
Yeah, it's an overall training that's happening.
Yeah,
there.
I think she's just getting leaner because spot not doesn't really happen at that rate.
Yeah,
but I mean, the rest of it's a good question, right?
And even if that's the case, like, I mean, when you talk about the chest, like if there was a muscle group on a female that I would neglect or tell her like, yeah, we could skip that and move along and do other things, it probably would be the chest, and not just because you're a female and you have boobs. But because we're already...
Just posturally.
Yeah, posturally, the average person is already anteriorly driven, and so they have the rounded shoulders, and they're forward anyways. So most people can't do enough posterior chain and back work anyways. So honestly, I don't know if you would create an imbalance of letting go of doing your chest that often or ever and focusing more on back and posterior chain, because... you spend the rest of your, because when you get on a computer, you don't ever type the computer behind your back. You're typing in front of you. Every time you answer your phone or you text on your phone, you're doing that. And every time you do that, you don't realize it, but you're contracting the chest
or shortening it.
Yeah, you're shortening it, right? So you're getting in that shortened position. So you're not that's not a muscle that. Now, if you're somebody who train chest and you skip back, that's an issue. Like that will cause that. It is already a common issue and a common imbalance already. And I would never tell a client of mine, yeah, you know what? Don't worry about the back. We'll just work on chest because you can see that and you like building your chest. That would be terrible advice as a trainer. But I had many female clients who had breast implants and they already had rounded shoulders, and we didn't do hardly any chest, if ever at all. And we focused more of their work on their back, their rear delts, and. But
that's more of a specific, like, okay, you have an imbalance, and we want to train other areas to correct those imbalances.
Right, but let's be honest, is that not most people?
It is. Mm-hmm. It is. But here's the thing, though, that you want to consider: if that's not you, and you're neglecting an area because of aesthetics, be careful, because I know people who skip leg day, skip calf day. I don't want to work my arms because I don't like my arms, or I don't need to work my back because I know women who won't work their back because they don't want their back to look muscular, so they don't train their back. And you got to be careful with that because, yes, there's this aesthetic component. I get that, but there's this function component as well. And, I mean, you can train an area maybe not as hard, but keep it connected. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Keep it connected and keep strengthening it. I mean, this is common with guys. They don't want to train their calves or their legs, right? Because who's going to see my legs or whatever? I don't care about that. The irony of it is, by the way, training your whole body will actually give you better results in your whole body versus skipping body parts.
There's a cascading effect where you train your whole body. Everything's going to improve and, it's going to bleed over into other functions. But, from what this question is really asking isn't really on a perspective of performance. So that's where I can kind of see Adam's point with making sure if it was a postural thing, like let's say, like she wasn't training her back and that was like a focus, that would be an issue because we are like, we want to make sure everything's tracking properly and the shoulders in a good position. And, so like kind of avoiding somewhat of the chest work isn't going to be super detrimental.
I guess that's the one body part.
It is the only body part. I cannot think of a single body part besides the chest that I've allowed a client to say, yeah, no, we could skip that. We don't need to do that.
The irony of that too is in the old time strongman lifters, like the bench press was a late addition to the strength exercises.
Yeah, the bench press was.
Yeah, well, in those days
more
it was
popular.
Yeah, everything was overhead. It was overhead exercises. It was pulling yourself up. It was using rings, using parallel bar dips, where you get some chest work there too.
Yeah.
But the bench pressing didn't really exist, or if it did, it was not done very heavy because they didn't have a rack. So if you wanted to do a bench press in those days, you had to clean the weight, sit down, and then lay down on your back and do it. Back then they called it a horizontal press. And athletes definitely didn't compare horizontal press numbers. Nobody gave a shit about that. It was all about, how much you could overhead press or how much you could lift off the floor and stuff like that. And if you look at pictures of these strongmen from the turn of the century, or the turn of the 20th century, you can see that they actually have very well developed bodies, but all of them had kind of these smaller, leaner, underdeveloped chests. The big chest muscles didn't come in vogue until it was bodybuilding, until a pro bodybuilding, big pecs of like.
Well, so we want to be gorillas.
Yeah, Arnold and all those guys.
Well, it's really not advantageous to what we do all day long. I mean, everything we do is our hands reaching out in front of us. You never pull behind you, so. it really is an area that, I mean, honestly, I see more problems with people over developing a chest and doing too much chest and not putting enough emphasis on the back.
Agreed.
I mean, and so if there was ever an area that I would tell a client, probably there in calves. Like I've told girls that wear high heels all day long that we don't need to be doing no calves. You already have great developed calves. If anything, I would work on ankle mobility and stretching. And
there you
stuff
go.
like that.
There you go.
So, and then maybe that's what you do with your chest. Like maybe your chest,
work on mobility and activating it.
Right. And so I think that's a good recommendation, Sal. Is like maybe you don't train the chest like to build, but you train it for mobility, which I think would be great because then you're going to open up the shoulders, open up the chest. You're not going to build a bunch of muscle, but you are staying connected, like Sal was saying. So that would be my recommendation. I don't think that you need to train your chest heavy or if you're following like a MAPS anabolic routine, you absolutely can take that, the barbell bench press and then change it into a mobility. This is why we've always encouraged people with all of the programs that we do. We don't believe that everybody should follow this exact same thing. If this is a perfect example of how I would take a great program like anabolic and just slightly modify it for someone. Yeah, you should follow the program pretty much to a T. Okay, well, we're going to take the barbell movements for chest, and instead of doing that, we're going to do some mobility work for your chest, or maybe some body weight type things that take you through full range of motion and work on connectivity.
Yeah, here's another thing too with women and chest muscles. It's a very common thing in our field or in our area or space for women to get breast augmentation. And the most popular way of doing this is by placing the implant underneath the pectoralis muscle. And what happens is some of these athletes that do this and then continue to really build and strengthen their chest, because what happens, that chest, it changes the angle of pull, number one, when you place an implant underneath the pec. So the instance of things like frozen shoulder impingement actually go up because it's pulling the chest out, right? So it causes the shoulders to roll forward even more. And then they work out their chest, and the pec muscle presses down the implant and causes, these bigger capsules where the implant, and you can see women when they work out and they've had their implants for a few years, they'll flex their pecs and their implants will kind of pop out. Separate out the side. So that's something that's important to pay attention to if you have implants or you're trying to get implants. Focus a lot on chest flexibility and mobility and strengthen your mid-back to prevent some of those issues.
Next question is from Ander Beth. Are trainers just touchy-feely by nature, or are there some that are just creeps? One of my OTF instructors touches every girl he helps.
Oh, man.
He's one of those guys.
Dude, I used to train so the things I used to focus on training my trainers was how to prospect, how to sell training, how to
fuck your clients.
Yeah, exactly. How to be a good trainer, and then I would always do a course on how to touch your clients, but also remain professional. Because as a trainer, I never liked the whole never touch your clients type of thing.
No, I used to touch my clients.
Yeah, because especially when you're training an area like the back.
Yeah, well, there's areas.
There's respectable ways to do it.
Yeah, there's areas that I think are completely appropriate and okay to touch, and how you touch, right? Like the trainer who comes up, and gets behind the hot client while she's squatting. And bear hugs her.
Squats her like she's a guy.
Yeah. And he squats with her and he's bear hugging her around the waist at the time. Okay, that's probably not necessary, right? Yeah. Or somebody who's
a hand on the lower back, a certain way.
Right, the guy's teaching her how to do hip thrust and he's poking her butt while she does it. It's like,
feel it here.
Yeah,
right in this butt area.
Pretty obvious. Like most people know where their butt is, so you don't need to point it out and touch it. But not a lot of people, like Sal was saying, know how to retract the shoulders, squeeze the rhomboids.
You got to put them in position. You got to move their shoulders. Sometimes you got to stretch them out.
Yeah.
Stretching them on the floor was a big one. I used to tell my trainers, there's one way that you stretch someone out on the floor, and this is what it looks like. Because I will never forget when I first became a fitness manager and watching this and thinking, okay, we need to change that. So when you have someone on the floor and you're doing passive stretch and you put their leg up on your shoulder.
Yeah.
His head was on the inside. So,
no.
Yeah, so it's all, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, pictured that.
You might as well start having sex with her, right?
Yeah,
so it's like, no.
Oh, yeah.
The leg goes on the other shoulder.
Start thrusting.
And you look away. Do not make eye contact when you're stretching their hamstrings or their hips and you're on top of them. Yeah. Look away and talk to them while you're looking over there. And this is the other thing I used to tell them. If you're talking to your client while you're stretching them, make sure your conversation is extremely technical and extremely professional. So if you want to joke around and you're friends with your client, that's fine, but don't have those conversations while you're touching them. Because that's what I would do. As soon as I'm stretching a client, I'm like, so we're stretching the hamstring. The insertion is over here and over there, and you may feel this kind of pulling, and I'm looking away, and I'm like, this is the clinical part of what I do. You know?
Treat it like that. I actually used to use and this feels kind of funny, but like I used to use a stick like when I'd stretch and stuff, and so I would actually use that to kind of prod them a little bit, like from the outside, like joust them a little bit. But I would use it like props or like, you know, the wall or, you know, whatever to try and like get a lot of that like feedback for them.
I feel like Justin's the least likely to be touchy. I feel like that's how you would be, like fucking poking them.
Yeah,
with the stick.
I would.
You feel it right here.
I'm not like, you know, massaging. Like that used to creep me out. Like some of these other trainers that would go get like certain certifications, like NKT, and they would like massage, and it was like a combo of both. And it's like looking from the outside, I know it was like the intentions were pure, but it looks really like intimate.
So I used to do that because I worked with a phenomenal correctional body work specialist or massage therapist, and I learned so much from her, and I'm like, wow, this could be applicable while I'm training someone if I want to deactivate their traps or if I want to whatever. But the way I would do it is I would use my elbow. It was very seldomly my hands. I'd use my elbow. I'd turn my body, and you could completely feel my energy was separate. So I would
body language is everything.
Yeah, I'd go way out of my way to act like I was like, okay, I'm over here doing this thing. And you have to do that when you're a trainer. Because first of all, it's a bad reputation with personal trainers.
We already get a stigma.
Well, I mean, I'm a very touchy-feely person, and period. And then I definitely touched clients for sure when I want them to feel things. But I think there is a right and wrong way. One, like Sal, like I used to go through this whole process of teaching my trainers, and one thing I used to always tell them is like, you guys are, the minute you walk through that door as a trainer, like whether you know it or not, everybody in that facility knows who you are. I mean, they might not know you personally, but they know you're a trainer that works here. So you're immediately on. So however you conduct yourself, and they say that the average person will shop and watch a trainer for 3 months before hiring them. So you're on right now. And if you think that the 60-year-old lady who's, you know, worth $10 million and is looking to potentially have a trainer for the rest of her life and is watching all the trainers work with people, and you're the guy with the 27-year-old hot girl at your training, and you're hugging her while she squats, and you're touching her glutes, and you're stretching her hamstrings between her legs, like if you think that's going to do well for your business, you're a fucking idiot. Like you really are. Now that doesn't mean that you can't stretch hamstrings, doesn't mean you can't touch clients, doesn't mean any of that stuff, but how you do it is so important on how you, and like a lot of reasons why I would touch people too is I recognize too that I'm a 6'3", 230-pound man. That's intimidating for a 5'4", 60-year-old lady who walks in. So a lot of times, like when I put my arm around her shoulder or touch her on her back or something like that, it's kind of to calm her down. Like I'm not this big, aggressive fucking guy who's going to be intimidating, that I can speak softly. I can get down to her level.
It takes a skill to manage that well.
Yeah, there is. And you're right. It's not, I'm touching her, but I'm doing it in a way that I think is...
She's like your mom.
Right. Exactly. It's inviting, and the conversation that I'm having with her, I think, is appropriate.
See, the problem is men and women haven't been working together in close quarters for a very long time. It's true. If you really think about it and you look at history, human history, and so the rules, we don't quite know what the rules are, and so now you have organizations that, because it's like, you know it when you see it. It's one of those situations. Like, obviously, there's things you can't do, and obviously there's things that are inappropriate. But putting your arm around a client, there's ways you could do it that are totally professional, and there's ways you could do it that look sleazy. I don't know how to describe them specifically except for the extreme versions.
But you see it and you know.
You know it when you see it. And so now you have organizations that are like, no touching allowed at all. Never touch a client.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
You're not allowed to compliment each other.
No.
You're not allowed to, and it's like, okay, now we've gone.
Well, especially when they're trying to identify where they're having an issue, or like they can't feel, or, I have a pain in this area right here. And it's like, being able to identify that area of their body is very helpful.
Dude, I remember when I very first became a trainer, and I was doing really well at first, and the fitness manager is like, hey, Sal, take, Billy and set up a body fat test booth and see if you guys can get people to book orientations. Now, in those days, there were two separate body fat tests. There was one for women and one for men. And the one for men it was 4 points. It was the upper thigh, bicep, tricep, and upper pec. Now, today, if you get a body fat test, it's unisex. It's subscapula, suprailiac crest, and bicep and tricep.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's this kid, new trainer, and I'm not paying attention to him because I'm talking to another client.
I remember the chest one.
And he's like tapping me on my shoulder, and he goes, Sal, I have a question for you. So like I finish up with who I was helping, and I turn around, and he's like, this thing says she's like 40% body fat. I'm looking at her, I'm like, no, you did something wrong. He's like, that's what I thought. He's like, can you watch me to make sure I'm doing it right? So he does the thigh. Okay, that looks good. He does the bicep, that looks good. Oh, tricep looks good. Does the chest.
He grabbed some titty.
He actually grabbed some of the upper boob. And of course, she's measuring hella high because that's the man one. And if you got boobs and you're a man, you have 40% body fat. So I'm like,
wrong test, bro.
I'm like, what the fuck do I do? So I like, you know what? Let's try a different test, because she didn't look like she was like figuring it out.
Offended.
So I'm like, no, let's try this one, and this one will be more accurate. And then when she left, I'm like, dude, that's the men's test, bro. You don't grab a girl's boob and test, because a boob is all body fat. So you're gonna get
right. He had the upper thigh with that too, right?
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
I actually got the most embarrassed I've ever been in my entire life was as a young trainer, and I was 18 years old. I was a fucking baby, and I had this woman that I was training who was probably, I remember her being this older woman, but in hindsight, she was probably 30, right? So I'm 18, she's like 30, super attractive, made me really, really nervous. And she calls the gym. I get on the phone. She's like, hey, Sal, I want to test my body fat real quick. If you can test me, because I'm not going to be able to train with you today or whatever. So she had to reschedule. So she walks in and she's wearing a little like sundress. And I knew that one of the tests was upper thigh. So we go in the office and I go to test her upper thigh, and I'm like, oh, you have to pull up and before I can get the words out, she just lifts everything up.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. And I was, super.
That's even further.
Super embarrassed, and I did not train her anymore after that.
Yeah, I had a lady, just took me by surprise with that. Like I was just going to have her roll up her sleeves, for a shirt and start working on her arms. She just took her shirt off. Yeah, and she was in a bra, and I was
I've had that.
"Whoa!" I'm like, I guess that's helpful. Thanks.
That's an obvious
But I was like, wow, okay, this is.
We've had every gym we've ever been at. The body fat testing area is kind of a semi-private area. Normally, it's a back off in a corner with this wall. So there's been times where I've had a girl back there and said, hey, wait right here. I'm gonna go get the calipers and we're gonna do.
You walk back and
I walk back and the shirt's already off. I'm like, oh wait, you don't need to do that.
You don't have to go all the way.
Yeah.
When that happens and then they act like it's not a big deal. They know what they're doing.
No, of course.
Who the fuck takes their shirt off?
Because right after that, I'm going right for the sale. I'm like, okay, let's sit down and talk about your training program.
This one will stay with me for a while. She's going to try real hard, and I'm not going to give it to her.
That's where Sal and I are different. I mean, the fact that he got scared and left of that.
I was 18.
I would sit her down and be like,
those are the best. You keep selling them.
Yeah, let's talk about how long your training program is going to be.
You're telling me a 30-year-old hot woman wouldn't scare the shit out of you at 18 years old?
Well, dude,
you were still a virgin at 18. Fuck you.
Still confident as fuck, though. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. All right, check this out. If you go to mindpumpfree.com, you can download some of our free guides. We have a back pain guide, a fat loss guide, a HIIT training guide, guides on training different body parts. They're very thorough. They're all totally free. Again, the website, mindpumpfree.com.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.